joined us about 8 months ago talking about film restoration because he worked for 40 years or more with NBC Universal Studios doing special effects, optical special effects. Great to have you back with us, Bob.
Thank you. How are you?
All right, good. Well, it's fun to have a resource here. You've been living in Prescott for about a year.
Yeah.
You know, visiting for more than that. But, you know, of course, with a lot of people who don't see movies, they wouldn't see this as any great thing. But for those of us who really do see movies, it's absolutely fascinating how they choose the movies for the Oscars and, you know, whatever the reasons are. But I want to know what makes a film visually entrancing for them to nominate, because obviously this is something you've done for decades. You know all about this. All right, so let's start. So we have visual effects and the nominees, and we'll just kind of talk about the films and see some pictures, and maybe you can give us an idea of what in those films you know is outstanding, or how they did that. All right, so the nominees for visual effects are Deepwater Horizon, Doctor Strange, The Jungle Book, Kubo and the Two Strings, and Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So what do you see in those visual effects?
It's interesting because they're broken into a couple of different groups. If you look at Deepwater Horizon, that's primarily really practical effects that are out there. The explosions, the fires, all of that were real. It was fantastic how they, they put that all together. Doctor Strange, and now what's important about Deepwater Horizon is that was practical, real, something that you would expect to see. When you saw that, that's real.
Okay, they're actually burning things and dealing with that and filming it as it's happening. And
that's your reality. You know, you think of it, that's what you'd see on the news. Doctor Strange is a total separate world. You know, the effects that you're seeing, none of it's real.
Illusion.
It's all up here. It's all illusion, exactly.
With lights and different kinds of
all digital
effects,
right?
Yeah,
all digital. All these are digital effects.
Okay.
Jungle Book there's one physical analog thing in it, and that's the boy. And the boy is there, but he's got a cover on him. When you see him, he looks like he's animation to bring in the rest. And there's nothing in reality in it, except when you look at it, it looks like reality. The animals in there. I mean, I thought so.
Oh, absolutely.
That movie blew me away.
Now, what do you mean he has a cover over it?
Well, and I don't know whether it's on YouTube or not, but you may be able to find the special effects where there's like a demo reel that they show.
Right.
And what you'd see is a little boy that's on the set who's got all these little dots on him.
Okay, that's what
And he runs around, and he's sometimes got green screen in back of him, sometimes he doesn't, and with all of that digital information that they capture, they then take and wrap him in his character. He doesn't look like the little boy that's on the stage. They're a little similar, but not really.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think Polar Express was like that. When Tom Hanks did Polar Express, I remember seeing pictures. It's almost like you're in for an EKG or something with all those things stuck all over.
Exactly.
And that monitors, and so it makes this literally what turns out to be an animation, but it makes it like human real.
Yeah, and you just said the key word there when you said it's kind of like animation. Because when you look at Jungle Book, is it animation? Is it live action? What is it? And you see the crossover more and more. That's what's really getting interesting about the business, because if you watch a movie and you'll see a serious special effects, you'll see a cinematographer in there. And you go, how could there be a cinematographer in there? There's no cinematography.
There's no actual scenery.
There's no scenery or anything. What did the cinematographer do? I'm not really sure. But he did something. I know that.
Yeah. So even you working in it, the crossover is a little confusing at this point, or a little different. Well, I know Monster Trucks is out now, and I didn't know how to describe it. I was doing a synopsis of the movie, and how do you describe that? A people/animation movie? Because same thing. It's like Roger Rabbit. I want to say Roger Rabbit was maybe the first where we saw what we thought was, but he was actually a real person in the animation.
That was live action. Now it all evolves. Roger Rabbit was mostly live action, except for Roger and his girlfriend and some other people that were in there. But primarily, that was live action. That was cinematography, and you saw the real world there.
But they're popping the tunes in. They're popping the animated characters like what was her name?
Jessica?
Jessica, yes. Who can forget Jessica?
Who could forget
She
her?
was not bad. She was only drawn that way.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Oh, but you love that. Well, and also Mary Poppins. Maybe that was before, way
That
back.
was old. No, that's
How
my
was that?
generation. See, my
Okay.
generation, everything I did was analog.
Okay.
It was shot on film. All the effects were done on film. Mary Poppins would be one of those. In that, as time went through and they've evolved more and more, everything now, the whole movie's digital. When you think they capture it digitally, it's like here, it's digital, but it's real life. But then they can take all that and manipulate it and do whatever they want with it, and that's where that crossover.
Because they could throw the penguins in, the faux penguins, we'll
With
say.
flying through the air with the umbrella.
Right, but was that just on stage with a harness or
Yeah.
something? Okay, all right, but then somehow they can mash those two. You know, I remember the old Disney things with the, you know, where they would draw a million pictures and then they go, shh, you know, it looks like it's making sense.
It's on the logo of the Disney movies. You see Steamboat Willie with his drawings. That's on there today. They show that old school
It's
animation.
fascinating. So it's still confusing to those of us not in it, or magic. Let's say it's magic.
I like that.
When they can put a live person and a cartoon character in together and it looks fun. But I mean, that was like child's play compared to what they're doing now, don't you think? And
Oh,
the
yeah.
complexity seems so more
Yeah,
intense.
and today, really the difference is, this can be kind of a crass comparison, but when digital first started, we looked at it and we said, the imagination is the only limitation. And if you were on LSD and you were having a bad trip and you knew what that looked like, you could come out of it and you could produce that, you could make it, and it would be real. It looks real. And that's why today the sky's the limit on the stuff that you see.
Nice. Well, I know Disney said, my favorite quote by him on the train when you go to Disneyland, he says, as long as there is imagination left in the world, Disneyland will never be complete.
The name of the group for the parks is Imagination, the Imagination
The
Group.
Imagineers. And
The Imagineers.
right,
Imagineers,
wonderful. Hey,
yeah.
we're going to be back with Bob and Neil. We're going to talk about some more special effects, some more movies up for the Oscars, and what they're all about. We'll be back. And we're back with Bob O'Neill, and he's worked in the movie industry for more than 4 decades with NBC Universal Studios doing optical special effects. So he knows a lot about this. Okay, we just talked about the movies up for the Oscars on visual effects. Now we're going to talk about the animated feature films. Nominated in that category, Kubo and the Two Strings, Moana, My Life as a Zucchini, The Red Turtle, and Zootopia. Gosh, Bob, to me that looks like a great variety.
It is. And I'm going to jump back for a second because one of these movies, Kubo and the Two Strings, actually was under visual effects also.
Yes.
So you've got a
How's
movie.
that crossover? Speaking
You've
of
got
crossovers.
animation and you've got visual effects. How does that happen?
Right. How does that happen?
Well, Kubo is interesting because Kubo is all shot as miniatures. It's actually, there's an analog world there, but with a lot of blue screen in the back. But if you go and you look at it and you see all the monsters and everything that's going on, it's all shot basically the same as a live action movie, except it falls under, the Academy chose to put it under both visual effects and animation. Now, it can fall under animation because if you go back in the old days, when you used to see claymation animation, well, this is basically, Kubo is basically claymation animation, except it's hard models that they do it with. The production company's up in Oregon. Steve Knight, Dad's Nike.
Wow.
So they have a few dollars there. And he has made, every one of their movies that they've made have been absolutely spectacular looking and good stories.
So he
and
owns
interesting.
a company that does this, or he just supports?
No, he
them
owns
to-
the company.
What?
Dad gave him the money, and he's
Shoes
been
and
good.
movies.
Yeah, he's made
Love
good
it.
movies all the way along, and he's still doing it. So Kubo fell under both of them.
Ah, and special for that. Now, so do they move the clay each shot, and they move
Which
the
actually, it's
clay
not
like-
clay in this case, it's
Okay.
hard models that have got all kinds of arms and things that they move around automatically. And again, I'm going to go back on all of these. If you want, go look on YouTube, because the making of may be on there. I don't know whether the studios or wherever snuck them on there, but if they're on there, go back and look at them, because, and actually if you do go see Kubo, the end credit has got a whole scene of them actually shooting it practical, how they
that's
did it.
fascinating.
And it's all high speed, and it's really neat looking.
And I think your DVDs, a lot of times, they'll have the option where
Value
you can
added.
see. You know.
Yeah. The other shows here are all basic traditional animation, but they're not traditional animation, they're digital animation. So they're all designed, computer.
On the computer instead of drawing those by hand, like we were saying.
Yeah.
Now, I want to say Shrek was one of the first of the digitals out. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I know it took 3 years, but when I watched Shrek, I was astounded. I mean, you could see every little piece of fur or hair or glint of the eye. I mean, it was so particular that it was like a living creature. I think that's the amazing thing about animation now.
There's two kinds of animation. There's 3D animation and 2D. Now, it's not 3D in that what's standing out. It's 3D in that it's wraparound, and it's not flat looking. And Shrek they had that three-dimensional look to it. That they were real figures moving around. But as you go along, again with technology, as you go back and you look at the older movies, how they were produced as far as digital and animation, visual effects, all of these. Jungle Book you couldn't have done 5 years ago.
Amazing.
Because there are so many pixels being used. There's so much data with all those animals, with the fur, with the feathers, with the glints in the eyes, the water going down the rivers. All of that stuff takes data, huge amounts of data.
So we have more capacity now.
Yeah, that's the thing, capacity, and faster.
And imagination.
And imagination.
But now it can keep up with the imagination.
Now, as far as these go, as far as the animation goes, they have their own interesting thing. Red Turtle, no dialogue. No dialogue.
And
the
it's
whole thing.
so plain. It looks like it's just drawn like on a
that looks
coloring
old school,
book.
doesn't it?
Very,
it's total old school. But the colors in it. I don't know if you remember the colors. They bought colors out in that thing I'd never seen before. And see, where I'm lucky, here I live in Prescott. How do I see these movies? The Academy sends them to me.
Oh.
So I've
You're
seen
a voting member of the Academy.
Yeah, I'm a voting member.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah,
that's
so,
why you know about a lot of this stuff,
Yeah.
and you will find out who you voted for maybe in just a sec.
I'll tell you what I liked.
Well, oh, yes. Well, how about My Life Was a Zucchini? Now, I didn't see that one. It hasn't come here, but I tell you, it looked so crazy. It just was very, again, more like the Red Turtle in the sense it looked drawn. It didn't look as fancy as like Moana. Was amazingly beautiful.
And see, that's the whole thing. There's another side to this, and that's how do you vote on these? First, it's the technical side, but it's also the movie, what's got the most heart? What is the movie that when you get done with? And I mean, you judge all
You
these.
didn't just watch it.
Yeah, which is the one that you walk away with an emotional feeling about it, good or bad, where it actually grabbed you and it did something with you. And that's where Moana, I would say, probably for me was my favorite of the animation ones. From a technical standpoint, Kubo, but I don't know,
Was one.
And
so there's a fight between the emotion and the techno. And Zootopia, I have to say, I adored Zootopia. I think it was in some ways, maybe not technically, but more like the animations of when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I
with
felt
all little animals.
Yeah, I don't know, from Bugs Bunny to whoever, but it was more like that, I felt, just watching it, even though it was probably much more complicated. Okay, so you're going for Kubo and the Two Strings in both categories, or just the
No, visual effects will be Deepwater, I think. That's what I like right now. Now, there's a funny thing that happens. How do you judge? And one of the things that happens is, when did you see the movie? And how fresh is it in your mind?
Exactly.
Last year, I saw Ex Machina, and I loved it. That was my movie from one end to the other, because it was simple. It was simple visual effects.
I remember it.
But at the very end, I saw The Martian.
And then you went for The Martian.
I went for The Martian.
Okay, well, we're going to see if Deepwater Horizon and Kubo and the Two Strings win in these categories. Bob O'Neill, thanks for the information. Fascinating
Thank you.
to see these beautiful things we love and how they're made. All right, don't go away. We'll be right back.